Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We're back with your favorite podcast, Luca's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my.
Luca Nation. I'm telling you the truth. I could not be more excited for today's episode. It's cool. We've had back-to-back guests on. We haven't done that before. And
is
really,
that right? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I mean, that's wow.
And they could not have been more unique. We had Conrad on Wednesday talking sports, NBA trade talk, what's going to happen with the NBA season, which players to invest in. Then we had Cherry Collectibles, Charlie, the social media guy for the Cherry Collectibles out of Australia. And then we had the buyer of the Mickey Mantle card, Rob Go. And I'm not going to lie, it is cool, to own a $5.2 million card. But Luca Nation, let me tell you, the real beauty of what we do is we want to put money in your pockets. We want to bring you guys real plays that you can action on. And I don't know, maybe, Manny out there, his TikTok's blown up and he could buy a $5 million mantle. But us regular common folk most likely cannot. So
I'll spend $5 million on a Mickey Manny Simone right now instead. Forget about it because he's a hot commodity. But listen, it's funny, guys. So you're right. I mean, we bring a content creator. You
back to another episode of Luca's Tigers and Bronze.
Right. It's a content creator, right? And Conrad, then we got somebody who's selling the cards, and then we got a consumer. We got somebody who's buying the cards. But I will tell you, after our episode yesterday, we take a little stock on Friday. We had a meeting with our production team. And, over the numbers and stuff for the, for the week and, a little pat on the back there because, wow, what a whirlwind, crazy record-breaking week. But what came out of the meeting was Andrew saying, I want to do a real episode. Like we haven't done one of our standard episodes in a while. Like I miss it. Like, what should we do tomorrow? Should we do a football episode? Should we do we skipped coffee with Cage this week because we had so many guests on. Should we do that? And Andrew's like, I just want to bring it back for our people. Let's get them a standard, format episode and let's get some plays. And that's our audience. That's what Luca Nation's come to expect from us. And they haven't had it for a couple of days. So Andrew, here you go.
Speaking of pats on the back. If you guys haven't listened to this episode, I highly recommend you go back and listen. It's the Luca versus Trae episode. And, as they say, this is why they play the games. And hindsight 2020, I could not have been more right. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about. It's clear Luca's going to be an MVP candidate. It's clear that Luca and Trae should not even be in the same conversation in terms of player. Cage is
really?
I'm ruffling his feathers a little bit, and that's the goal here. But I want to talk about two different players. We have Ja Morant coming off injury, okay? Mm-hmm. And you have two teams sitting with the exact same record. You have the Hawks at 5-6 and the Grizzlies at 5-6. Mm-hmm. However, in my eyes, these are two teams going in separate directions. And I wanted to have the same Luca Trae debate, but I wanted to have it Luca versus Ja. And I want to talk about their prices are right around the same amount. They're very similar players in that they're kind of scoring point guards, leaders of the team. Who would you invest in right now, Cage?
Luca. I think Ja is much more based on athleticism.
Ja or Trae. Ja or Trae.
Oh, I thought you said Ja or Luca.
No, Ja or Trae. Luca's head and shoulders above these guys, but his price reflects that. But Trae,
it's funny,
he
right?
was the hobby darling, and now he's fallen out of sight a little bit.
Right now, I invest in Trae because you're getting Trae. He scored 4 points last night on 1 of 11 shooting. I mean, you're getting Trae at the bottom of the market. And while you could say the same thing for Ja, here's the difference. Just as I went a little negative on my Devontae play, it wasn't because I don't think he's a good player. I think we've talked about this in sports, in cards, in everything, right? It's motive and opportunity, right? An MO, motive and opportunity. That's what you talk about with crime, right? Hey, somebody is a suspect in a crime. You got a motive and opportunity. Well, opportunity is a big deal, right? It's opportunity to play and whether or not you're going to take advantage of that opportunity. And what kind of opportunity do you have? So let's go through all of those players. Devontae, easy, right? Last year had a whole bunch of opportunity and took advantage of it because there was nobody else stepping up and playing those minutes. And look what happens. This year, Rozier is the player who they thought he was going to be. They bring in Gordon Hayward. They bring in LaMelo Ball. Devontae doesn't have as much opportunity, right? Doesn't have the opportunity to play, so he's not going to be scoring. Trae. you can make an argument the same thing has happened, right? That team is still trying to figure itself out. Last year, it was the Trae show. You had a couple of rookies came in, and DeAndre Hunter was not the player he is now. Cam Reddish, you know, I know you hate him, but he was not looking. It was Trae's team, right? John Collins there. So now this year, the team is trying to, you know, grow into its role, grow into its, into what they're going to be, right? And you got everybody kind of, you know, trying to figure it out. Is Trae going to be more of a passer? Is he going to be more of a facilitator? Is he going to try to take a step back from shooting 50 times a game and try to get everybody else involved and play more of a team game and try to win? Trae last year, if he's 1 for 11, he just keeps chucking the ball. Yep. And ends up, you know, 8 for 22 or whatever it may be, you know? So, you know, that's the difference. So you may be seeing the worst version of Trae, because I think ultimately they'll come out of this and figure out a way where he goes back up, stat-wise, team-wise, win-wise, you name it. So you might be, and his cards haven't exactly bottomed out. His cards are right around where they were. His stats are, you know, not so great, but his cards haven't exactly bottomed out. Ja. So you could say similar things because he's on an injury, because he's a little bit of a break is injured, right? But last year, it was Ja. It was the Ja show, right? And this year in the beginning, while he was playing great, it's the Ja show again. He's never really played with a full complement of people on his team. Jaren Jackson's been injured. That was supposed to be a big star, and he's going to have a role and kind of eat into the minutes and the points and the scoring opportunities that Ja will have. Brandon Clark's coming into his own. You have other players on Memphis, and they're just not really that good of a team, to be honest. They'll probably bring in somebody else next year, you know, and who knows what's going to wind up happening there. So honestly, if I'm investing in one or the other, I mean, I've sold a lot of Trae, and I never really invested in Ja, because I think his game is not built for the long term, you know, the long haul, you know, in the NBA. I don't know, man. You can make an argument that both of them are going to potentially be on the upswing. I think I would go Trae right now, just because I think you've seen the floor on him, right? I don't know if we've seen the ceiling. I think you've seen the floor on him. Ja, he's injured.
I'm sounding the alarm. And I was, before jumping on this episode, I was like, you know, Lamim is my favorite account on the internet. So I would never want to do anything to get on his bad side. That being said, I got to bring the truth to people. Big but. Trae's never won shit. Trae has never won. He never won at Oklahoma. He's never won in the NBA. He's never had a winning season. And I'm saying right now, if I'm holding Trae Young cards, sell. And you couldn't sell them faster. This is a guy who, even though he puts up massive numbers, is not a very good basketball player. And that's what his teammates are starting to see. He can't defend. He's undersized. He's not very quick. And he's really just a chucker. Because you'll look at his assist totals. He reminds me a little bit of James Harden in his usage. And I've watched quite a few of his games. He gets assists because he holds the ball in his hands for most of the game, and not because he knows how to get players involved. You watch Luka, you'll see something completely different. Now we look at Ja Morant. Ja Morant played at Murray State. He led that team to a deep run in the NCAA tournament. He took the Grizzlies to the 8th seed out of the West and 1 game out of making the playoffs. These two guys could not be further from each other in terms of future potential. And after doing a lot of research this last week, we had some time doing the guest. I wanted to bring that to you guys because I'm very, very bearish. Bearish means not so high on the Atlanta Hawks this season. And I'm bullish on that Memphis Grizzlies team. That Memphis Grizzlies team has shown a lot of resilience. Ja Morant went out. Let me read to you guys some of the games that they're sitting 5 and 6. But let me pull this up real quick. They've beat the Grizzlies.
By the way, the Hawks were one of our overrated teams in the NBA preview.
Yes, they were.
They were my Cleveland Browns of this year, which, by the way, means next year. Watch out for those Hawks when they finally figure it all out, and Trae becomes this year's Baker Mayfield a year from now.
Look, this is who they've lost to. So they lost to the Jazz. Jazz are a good team.
Good team.
They beat the 76ers when their entire team was out on COVID. They lost to the Hornets once. They lost to the Hornets again. They lost to the Knicks, and they lost to the Cavs. That's their last 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Any team that loses to the Hornets twice is bad. Because the Hornets, they could be good one night and bad the next. Usually not going to lose. Not going to see them play well two games in a row. But yeah, I mean,
now the Grizzlies beat the Nets twice. So Ja Morant hurt his ankle against the Nets. That team was so resilient. They took the Nets to overtime, beat the Nets. They just beat the Nets again. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They beat the Timberwolves and the Cavs. They played the Lakers tough. They only lost to the Lakers by 2 points. Why am I saying that? That's all with their best 2 players on the bench. This Grizzlies team is going to be last year's Mavs team. And that's why my play today is Ja Morant Prism PSA 10. In my opinion, the 2-headed monster going forward is not going to be Luka and Zion or Zion and Ja or Luka and Trae. It's going to be Luka, and a notch below him is Ja Morant. And I want to let you guys know now. I think now is the only time you're going to be able to get in on Ja Morant cards.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Are you nervous about this? One thing I'm nervous about with that play. Just one. And you can tell me whether, it makes sense or, whether it tempers expectations. The only thing I'm nervous about with that play is there are thousands of those cards sitting at PSA right now. Thousands.
The Prism PSA.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably one of the, probably Zions and Jaws and, other versions and optics and whatnot. Those are probably, in the top 10. The Zion Prism and the Ja Prism and its variants have to be in the top cards that are just sitting, waiting for PSA to get out of the, out of their own way and grade the cards. So I'm just worried about whether or not, even though demand for the card might go up, the actual supply, the available supply might be going up too. I think the guy's great. I think his card's great, but go ahead.
Well, one, I think just Drake, one of our followers, one of their smarter followers, and I learned as much from him as he may learn from us. He always goes select courtside.
Yes.
He always goes select. Or he doesn't always go select. He goes low pop of the players that we talk about. So you can do that. You could absolutely do that. At the same time, you could say the same thing about Luka cards, and Luka cards are $2,000. So
yep,
it hasn't seemed, especially with these Prism cards, that the high pop has actually caused any issue with run-ups. I see the Ja Morant being $1,000 Prism card by the end of the year. And I just think if you look at this guy's track record with a roster that's, I would argue, is worse than the Hawks this year, the guy took him to the 8th seed in the West. The guy is a really high IQ player. He reminds me of Westbrook, but he actually kind of understands how to play the game a little bit better. I'm very bullish on him.
I tuned into a live last night with Chris Hodge and his partner. And I told them to stop shitting on commodity cards, and they pinned the message, and they they answered it and the whole deal, and they would consider this a commodity card. It is. And I want to talk to our audience, because I think our audience is a commodity card audience. I mean, I think the guys listening to this are you're not in a position like me. You're not in a position to go out there and buy a National Treasure RPA at a 99. It's just not in our price range. But this card is. And I will tell you that you're going to hear a lot of talking heads, declaring things like, don't go after commodity cards, don't go after, put your stuff in rare. Okay. So, Andrew, you can spend a little time on this if you like, but talk about the liquidity that a card like this brings to the table, the certainty of pricing and that kind of stuff too, because, how much does the card sell for now, the PSA 10 that you're telling the people to go into, ballpark?
$650 to $600.
$650. So if Andrew's right, and over the next couple of months, Ja comes back, the team performs, and this is $1,000 card, that means you've made 50%. All right, the card's gone from $650 to $1,000. You made 50% on your investment now.
And someone cashes you out on it, because you can make money on an RPA, but it's not realized until there's a buyer on the other side.
Right. To buy a Ja RPA, where are you cashing that out? You know what I mean? And who's paying you in Bitcoin for it? And
we're not giving you Rob. We're not going to give you Rob Go's number. He's not going to be buying it.
Exactly. So, I mean, the point is that there are different ways to play the hobby. And, Ja Morant is not exactly a penny stock here, right? This is a legit card, but it's still in a price range that's attainable. If you happen to be somebody who was playing other cards this year, let's give you a perfect example. If you jumped on a safer play of mine and you said, you know what? I know he's a Yankee fan, but he's probably right. Those Mariano Rivera 1992 Bowman PSA 10s, they're a bargain in the fours. They're a bargain under $500, which is something we gave you a couple months ago. Well, if you sold it yesterday, it's $850, the most recent auctions. So maybe you jumped on something like that, or maybe you jumped on one of Andrew's many plays for $50 or $60 that the cards are now $100, $150 each. Maybe you cash out on one or two of those plays, and you're only into the job for $250 or $3. This is what we'll talk about. You can go back and listen to Andrew's snowball episode, right? This is what we're trying to do here. Find that $50 play, turn it into a $100 play, buy two or three of them, and then turn those $300-$450 cards into a Ja right now. That Ja becomes $1,000 card. That becomes a cornerstone piece of your collection. You want to sell that card for $1,000 when the season's over, or when he is about to go to the playoffs? Great. Take that $1,000, put it into more of those $50 plays, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we're going to try to bring you. I mean, it's always great to talk about how you should be going after Grail cards, but Andrew and I are not giving you a precious metal gems as your play for the day. It's just not where we play, and not where we expect you to as well.
And my question to follow up on that would be like, okay, go after Grail cards. How? Mm-hmm. How do you build the budget to go after Grail cards? So let's say you believe in Ja Morant. Well, the best way to go after Ja Morant Grail card, in my opinion, is to invest in his commodities, get a profit, and roll that profit into a Grail card, right? Because that way you're hedging against. Let's say you're waiting for Ja, waiting to get the funds to buy a Ja Grail card. Well, you might miss the market because he might come back and start putting up 40-point nights and take that Memphis Grizzlies team to a 4 seed, and now the Grail card went up in value, and you haven't been in the market. Instead, you're invested in the market. You catch the run up, you sell on the run up, and reinvest into a Grail card. That's worked for me. That's what I did with the Zion cards, the Prism PSA 10s. If I was a believer in Zion, I could have turned over those 15 or 10 Zion Prism PSA 10s that I had and rolled that money into a Grail card. So, yeah, I think you have to also talk about how do you build your bankroll? How do you get cash flow? Not everyone could get an RPA 99 right off the bat.
But it's actually a pretty smart thing you just talked about there, hedging. And I don't know whether or not you guys caught on that, because I did, because I do it. So right now, if you're listening to this and Andrew's play is go out there and spend $650 on a Ja Morant, and you believe in his Ja play, you think Ja is right, you think Ja's cards are going to go up, and you'd love to get in that, but you don't have $650. Ballpark. How much is a hoops? How much is an illusions? How much are one of those? Let's just say they're $150, something like that, right? And that's a number you do have, right?
It doesn't snow in Memphis.
Exactly, the winter one. So, but the point is that if you want to get in on a Ja market,
$110 for a PSA
$110
Ja Morant hoops.
So there you go.
Steal.
So if that's what you can spend $110 on the Ja Morant hoops. I'd make that my play for today. This is where you're lower, and I think this is what's going to happen, right? Let's say you're able to get it on one or two of those. All right, you continue to sell, you continue to do whatever you got to do. If that Ja, that $650 now goes up to $700. And you're like, wow, I really wish I would have bought it. Well, guess what? You did buy it, because I have a feeling what's going to wind up happening is that Ja goes from $650 to $700. Your hoop's going to go from $110 to $130, because you're in on the Ja market. You're not missing that run up. You're just in it. You're almost buying yourself a fractional share of that Prism card by buying the lesser card.
So. And hey, you want to go star stock on this? I'm going to make a star stock play on Ja Morant. And I'll explain why. I want to test it. Right? Because right now we've been using star stock for lower end drafts, Obi Toppin, LaMelo. I want to see what happens when Ja comes back from injury. And guys, you have to remember, the Western Conference is at its weakest in the last 5-6 years this year. The Rockets lost a ton of players. It's really top heavy. Really, the Lakers are the standalone best team, with the Clippers being a close second. But then you have the Jazz, Suns, Trailblazers, Mavs, Nuggets, Spurs, Warriors, Grizz. Like, that's anyone's world. And you look at this Grizzlies team, they're tough. They're tenacious, man. This is a team that has a chip on their shoulder. They're under-talented, and they compete hard, and that's without their two best players. Jaren Jackson's coming back very soon. Yep. And I'll be interested to see if we can get, a Clippers versus Memphis type of 7 versus 2 opening round.
Are you concerned that when Jackson comes back, then you got Clark running at full speed, and you got Dylan Brooks out there, and you got all these people running out there, that Ja becomes more of a facilitator than a scorer?
No, dude. No, I watched a ton of Ja. The big difference between Ja Morant and Trae is everywhere he's gone, he's elevated his players. He's elevated his teammates. That's really his bread and butter. He is actually a facilitator, and he can get buckets on his own. Like, if you look at that Murray State team, that was not a talented team. And he carried them. And he was able to find ways to make his teammates better, not just put up points. Ja's going to get his own. He's going to get his 25 points a game. I'm really excited for this Grizzlies team. I don't know if you could tell, but they've shown me something here, Cage.
I like it. I mean, listen, the Hawks. There's a couple little tempers, right? So Ja did play at Murray State, so he had no other real legitimate D1 talent to share with. He's been on a shitty team now for a year and a half, half a year last year, whatever it is, and he has done everything you'd ask him to do. I just get worried when there's a full complement of NBA players around him. What's going to wind up happening? And even a step back, I'm a huge fan of momentum. Momentum in the hobby, momentum and all this stuff, right? And when you see a little break in that momentum, it's hard to pick it back up. It's just one of those things. And we're seeing a little bit of break in
until Ja dunks on someone's head, and then you're like, "Whoa, this guy's back!" And did you see how he sprained his ankle? Did you see how high he got up for that block?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Ja's a top 5 guard in the NBA right now. I put them right below Dame Lillard and that tier of Curry. Dude, he's an emerging star, and I don't know. Luka, Dame, and Luka doesn't even play like a guard sometimes. Dude, by the way, did you watch Luka last night? How unbelievable, dude! He is the smartest player I've seen play, second to LeBron in a long time. He could score from the outside. He never seems out of control. I know I talk about Luka a ton, but his post moves. He's unstoppable in the post. Did you see him post up Drew Holiday?
Yep.
Catch him on his right shoulder.
But he's smart enough to capitalize on that mismatch.
Exactly. And then they double him and he passes to the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But below that tier of, top 5, top 3 guards, Ja's right there, man, and he's knocking on that door. And I'm really excited for him to come back and play again.
Oh, I like it. And, Memphis is good. I wouldn't shit on Trae too much. The only, I remember, what are we, a dozen games in? We're starting to get a decent sample size, I guess. But, he did start off with the first couple games. He scored 30-something, 40, whatever he was scoring, So, when you score 4 one night and 40 another, it still does average out into the 20s, right? So it's still a 22 average. So I'm sure his average is
we're 15% of the way into the season.
Mm-hmm.
So we're 3 games, and you know what they say about the NFL, right? Like the first 3 games, okay, you could figure out your identity, but game 4 in the NFL season, if you're not clicking, chances are you're not going to find your rhythm for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, listen, I've never been high on the Hawks, but and I was a little concerned about Trae coming in, but I mean, the game was out of hand last night, and that's why you see the numbers he has. I have a feeling he's also hearing it as well, so. I don't know when his next game is. I guess we look it up, but I would expect him to come back and have a nice performance as well.
But here's my question. He has a lot of fans. And I'm sure he's hearing it. But my question back, I always ask the question, how? How is he going to turn it around, right? So all Trae has is he's a good shooter. He's a great shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But he's undersized. He's not very strong. He's not very athletic. So if his shot's not falling, what does he have? He can't.
Well,
he can't. You can't turn
Steph
it
Curry.
on.
Curry had a horrible shooting night the other night too. If the shot's not falling, They're all shooters in the league. And Steph is undersized. He's not the most athletic person on earth. He came into the season with a horrible haircut. I mean, basically, he is Trae.
I don't know why he had that haircut. I'll say one of Curry's most underrated qualities is his movement off the ball. People don't really notice that, like how he works off screens and things like that. Like that's a big deal because when your shot's not falling, your teammates can start looking for you, right? If you're able to move off the ball and get open looks. So I wouldn't compare Trae to Curry. I mean, that's unfair to Steph. So
I think it's about as close of a comparison as you can get to a current NBA player.
Minus 3 rings and 73-9 record for sure.
Yeah,
dude. Right, Trae has never had a winning season.
That's true.
He's never had a winning season, and even in the NCAA tournament, he couldn't even take his. He could remember Curry with Davidson. Took him to the finals.
He was a hideous beast. Talk about needing a haircut then.
He beat Duke.
Look at him. That was a scary dude right there. It was, that shaved head. It was scary.
There's gonna come a point where we're like, yo, Trae, like maybe we want to see some results from you. Like, I
Listen,
understand you could shoot.
Here's the funny thing: you're down on Trae. I've made a comparison, even though you don't agree with it, to Steph, and you made a comparison and called him James Harden, who is who was one of the greatest scorers to ever grace the basketball court. So while people don't love him, that's sure. But it's funny that we're down on a guy and listen to the comparisons that are being made about him. So I mean, just take it all with a grain of salt. I get it, and I think Ja's got a huge rabid fan base too. And keep in mind, what we talk about here is supply and demand at base. And I think what you're saying is when Ja comes back, there will be an increased demand for him. So this might be your last opportunity to get in on his prices where they are now. And that makes total sense. Total sense.
Trae Young, you're holding a Trae Young silver right now. You got it for $2,500. It's at $3,000 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you holding? Or are you selling? Or are you buying more?
Me personally?
Yep.
I've sold several of them and I've held several of them. I've kind of hedged on it, this way, but I mean, I sold a 3,700, I think, the most recent one. So, but I know he hasn't had the greatest, first dozen games or so, but this is the standard fare. The prices go up leading into the season. Then a couple weeks in, it's a long season. People kind of they go a little cold on the cards, and then it picks up again. I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. But with Trae, it might not pick up again if they keep losing and he's scoring 4 points a night. So,
but how long do you think investors are going to stay on the Trae train when the season before the Hawks were 29-53? Like, how long do you think they're going to be like, okay, that's just
I think
Trae.
you give, it depends. The investor market
20-47.
The investor market is very different now than it was. It's a very fickle market out there. People jump bandwagons. You can count me in there. I mean, I came into let's say I ended last season. I probably owned, 200 Devontae PSA 10s. I think I own like 6 now. So I'm fickle as well. And there's a reason for it. It's exactly why you're telling people sell Trae. You're watching the game, you're watching the opportunity, you're watching what's there. And, there are some knocks on him, right? Some Achilles heels, let's call them, So I get it.
Let's say halfway through the season, they're sitting at 15 and 17. I think the silver lining creeps in, doesn't it, Cage? Where people are like, well, they're most likely not even going to make the playoffs again this year. Now Trae is 3 seasons in, and he's never been to the playoffs. He's never played in a meaningful game. He hasn't elevated his teammates. I think at some point there's going to be a drop. I think a dip is coming.
I think most people didn't. I don't think most people expected him to make the playoffs this year. But yes, they expect some improvement from last year. So yeah, I mean, everything saying makes sense 100%. So be wise. And the timing, guys, the timing is the key, right? People aren't watching every game. You're watching a game. You're watching these things. You're seeing how he's not progressing his game, right? What you'd expect to see out of him if you're a basketball guy is you expect to see him working on his defense and working on his off-the-ball movement, right? Because then on games where the shot's not falling, and this happens for guys, right? Where the shot's not falling, he can contribute in other ways. He can focus on his defense. He can move off the ball. He can be a decoy because he's moving off the ball. He can set up. He can get out of that shooting funk if he plays better with off the ball, and he can create and get his other teammates involved. And so far, and remember, dozen games or so, small sample size, but it doesn't seem like he's doing anything to progress those aspects of his game beyond where they were last year. Fair?
You got 100%. You guys who out there who played basketball, you'll know that coaches have said this to you. When you're going through a slump, they'll say, "Well, find ways to impact the game elsewhere." That's the thing that coaches say, because once you do something good for your team, you start feeling that good vibes. Your shot will come back when you get your confidence back. But if you don't have anything else to lean on, you're just going to keep chucking. That's what I've seen the last 3 years. That's what I saw when I was watching him at Oklahoma. Lamim, I want you to know, you're my favorite account on Instagram. You're hilarious, brother.
Oklahoma. Okay, so here's my play, and I love the timing that you bring to it, right? Because it really is a timing play, right? Trae's not playing well, and he's not looking good. Ja's on his injury, and this might be your last opportunity to buy it. Mine is also going to have some timing to it as well, and it's funny, right? So mine is, it's a family affair because I love these guys with hyphens in their names, right? I love these, and we can't say their names, right? Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? And I'm like, Alexander, right? And then Nikhil Alexander Walker, they got hyphens, and both of their names have Alexander in them. And that's weird, right? And you told me, what? Are they cousins?
They're cousins.
See? So, I mean, come on. Keep it all in the family, man. It was a great show. So,
T-Mac and Vince Carter action here, huh?
There you go. Exactly. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker is my play, but not today. Okay? It's my play for this episode, but not my play for today. So take a little walk with me on this. He got inserted into the starting lineup, scored 37 points the other night. I watched him play last night.
Was that a pun right there? Take a little walk. Take a little walk.
So he also impacted the game last night. It's against the Lakers. The Pelicans had I think a halftime lead and then just got destroyed. The Lakers just turned it on in the second half and became the team that they are. But when he was in the game, can I just call him Naw, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker? I need like an abbreviation. We got SGA and that rules, but like Naw, because it's New Orleans, right? It's the New Orleans Pelicans. It's going to be his team if his name is Naw. The Naw Pelicans. Anyway, when he's in there, he looked good. I mean, a real silky 3-point release, quick release. He looks real good. But here's the problem with him, right? Twofold. One, everybody's jumping on his cards right now because when a guy drops 37 points in an NBA game, you see the star stock numbers and the eBay numbers go double. They literally double overnight, right? So that is, we talk about overreactions, right? That is an overreaction. That is a huge overreaction. And here's why. He's great. He's a good player, but he's getting this opportunity because at the time when he started, Zion was out because of an inconclusive COVID test. Bledsoe was out and Lonzo was out, right? So you had basically no team. Not to mention you also have Kira Lewis, the rookie, also as a guard, who's going to be eating some of the time for Noah. So right now, his cards are at a high point, right? They're as high as they're going to be. So I'd be doing you all a disservice if you just listen to Noah and you ran out right now, you hit pause and you bought all of his Prism, cards, his Prism Silvers, you name it, his BSA 10s, which by the way have started to go up like crazy. His silvers are, $200-$300, on auction now, even more. And the PSA 10 bases are, and the parallels basically all coming off the board on eBay, stuff that nobody was looking at. It used to be, you pulled the wrong Pelican. Right. So, it was him and Jackson Hayes and you were like, oh man, I didn't want him. I was hoping for Zion. So here's my play. Do not be the person who buys. If you're holding it, sell him right now, right? Don't be the person who buys him now. That said, I want you to pay attention. And in a week or two, when he finds himself back on the bench and finds himself relegated to that bench, the people who bought the cards on Star Stock, who want to move that money somewhere else, they're going to liquidate it and take a loss. It's just what's going to happen. The people who are buying these things on eBay are probably going to return them. That's what happens on eBay, okay? And the seller's going to get stuck with the card. They're going to try to relist it again. They're going to sell it for significantly less because nobody's going to be looking for him anymore because the days of him dropping 37 are gone. Not because he doesn't have the talent to do it, right? He just showed you that he does have the talent to do it. He just doesn't have not the motive to commit a crime, my friend, but the opportunity. Right? He has the opportunity, right? So he gave him the opportunity. This is a key string, like a Seinfeld episode, beginning to end, tie it all together. He got the opportunity the other night because of injury. That opportunity is going to be gone over the next couple of weeks because he's not supplanting Lonzo in the lineup just yet. But
it's clear he has way more upside than Lonzo.
At the end of this year,
it's not even close.
When the Pelicans are going to try to find out what they have.
Yep. JJ
Redick is not going to be getting meaningful minutes. Lonzo might not be getting meaningful minutes either. But you know who will be?
Nickeil and Zion.
The New Orleans Pelicans, Noah's team. And you know what you've done is you've seen the spike. You've seen what the cards can do. You see what his play can do when he's given an opportunity. You're going to sit, you're going to wait, and you're going to see those cards come down. He's not going to be given that opportunity over the next couple of weeks. You're going to see that the prices fall on him. People are going to panic on him. The demand is not going to be there anymore, although the supply is going to come out of the woodwork now because everybody who opened Prism blasters like myself is going to run like they did with Keldon Johnson and all the other people who no one even heard of last year. They're going to run. They're going to put them up on eBay. There's going to be a huge supply influx over the next couple of weeks of sales for these things. And no one's going to want him anymore because he's not going to be in the news. It's not going to be a 37-point headline. That's when you pounce. Because a month after that, when he actually is making his way back into the lineup for a team that's probably less than relevant in the playoff race, maybe it dropped 37 again, and you were able to buy it at a bargain price, half of what it's selling for now. There's my play. and it's a timing one. Please, be mindful of what we're doing here. I'm not telling you to go out and buy them now. As a matter of fact, if you have them now, I tell you to sell them.
Well, sell and then buy the dip. It kind of just happened with, and I don't want to use Bitcoin as the example, but just stay with me here.
Mm-hmm.
With this massive run up in Bitcoin,
yep,
you start seeing people like, man, I don't want to miss the ship. You start buying, you getting a little FOMO. Like, I'm going to put $1,000 in. And then overnight, you see a 10% cut in the Bitcoin. And people are like, what the F did I just get? What did I just get myself into? They start sell, right? And the same thing happens with Nikhil. They're like, oh man, this guy's gonna be the two-headed monster. What's it called? Zion and Nikhil. And then Lonzo comes back, takes all the minutes, and people are like, what did I get myself into? And they start flooding the market with their Nikhil cards.
Yep.
That's when you start buying the dip and pouncing. And man, Cage, I gotta tell you, I love these episodes. I miss them so much because I just don't think anyone else brings what we bring to the market. Like we could save these plays and keep them for ourselves, but that's not what we do. We want to let you guys know this is what we're seeing. This is where our experience points us to. I've watched Trae since college. I've watched Ja since college. So it feels good to be back, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it's an important weekend, and Andrew has a dream that we get to do more of these episodes. So let's do it, man. Whenever you want to do them, we'll do them. I don't care. We got to do 2 a day. So, Luca Nation's asking for them. So, guys, you asked for a couple plays. We haven't brought your plays in a while. We're bringing you guests. We do want to bring you guests. I think there's some significant value in that. You haven't gone and listened to the Rob G episode? Listen to it because it's a very different episode. It's a very different interview than you can hear on all the other ones that are out there. It's not what he's telling ESPN and TMZ and wherever else is there. We got into it. We talked to him about his upbringing. We talked to him about, what high school he went to in Indiana. We talked to him about, what it was like knowing that card was arriving at his house. We're not looking for, for quotable stuff here. We want to give you something that's got some value to it. And Andrew did a really good job of his Cronkite impersonations, right? And he was, trying to get you some answers to questions that you weren't going to get anywhere else. I think he did a really good job on it. And I miss you guys because, Coffee with Cage is like my favorite thing. And we didn't do that this week. So
I have one question for you. And I actually saw it today, and it's so frustrating because I don't know if you guys seen the 2020 12 Panini Prism cards with Kyrie. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous card. And I want to buy the card. Cage, right now, would you be investing in Kyrie?
I would have liked to have, if I were investing, I would have liked for his cards to come down a little bit more. And the fact they didn't come down that much tells me that people still believe in him. The answer for me personally is no, only because, I've never liked a if you can't beat them, join them kind of person. And, even if the stars align, the sage is burning and the Nets take a title this year, which, come on, it's not going to happen. Even if they do, it's not going to be thought of as Kyrie's title. It's going to be thought of as maybe Durant's title, or maybe Harden gets to say, you guys would have not gotten there if it wasn't for, me coming and joining your team and doing, adding my special sauce to the mix. So to me, that caps the upside on investment on Kyrie. I think there are probably plenty of people out there saying I'm insane, and that if he goes on to win, it doesn't make a difference because he's shown that he's done it now with multiple people. Some of the greatest to ever play the game, of course. You know what I mean? But look, I don't fault Kobe. I mean, Kobe won his first couple of titles because Shaq was a machine and a monster. I get it. No, Kobe still gets credit for those titles. So it is what it is. Am I buying him? No, I'm not. Only because I think he's a lunatic. And yeah, I mean, it's not somebody I want to put my money in. Can I throw a little? And you can answer about Kyrie in a second. Before I forget. My son is a huge Harden fan and a huge Net fan. I don't know if I mentioned this, but he likes them both. So I thought he was going to be thrilled because, hey, Harden's coming to the Nets. Like he has the Harden jersey. He loves the Nets. He wants to watch the Net games. And I said, dude, you're one of your favorite players is coming to your favorite team. And he's like, who'd they get rid of? Like very angry, right? And I told him, and he's like, I'm not a Net fan anymore. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, what made the Nets great was their bench. He means depth, obviously. He loved Jared Allen, but his favorite guy, I didn't even know this. He said he liked watching Torrey and Prince. He said he was a great guy, came off the bench, got minutes, you name it. He's like, I don't even want to watch him anymore. So it's funny, right? So Kyrie, I mean, I feel the same way. I don't even want to watch him anymore. I mean, come on, he's toying with us. I did hear a rumor that he's going to play today, though. So don't be mad at me if I'm wrong. But I heard a little rumor that he's actually going to show up today and play.
Dude, I miss the 2018 Nets when they were the bench mob. Remember them dancing on the man? It's crazy how stars could kind of, I don't want to say ruin team culture, but there's something beautiful about watching a team come together that doesn't have stars and overperform. I think that's pretty cool. Guys, Cage mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but I'll mention it here again. Our engagement is off the charts. People are DMing us, leaving comments, all that stuff. And I'll let you know that when I go to bed at night, I'm sitting on my phone for hours responding to DMs and answering. I'm trying my best to get to as many DMs and emails about PSA submissions and, just what do you think about this card versus this card? And you understand the gambit of questions we could receive. I for my own mindset, just peace of mind, I'm trying to get to every DM.
We will get to you. We might not. Don't be mad if we don't get to you in an hour or two or three, or if you don't get an answer until the next day.
Follow up, because it does fall to the bottom as they come in, and I just want you guys to understand that we are doing our best to get you the responses that you're looking for.
And keep them coming because we love it. And people get a little brash too. Hey, you put me in a group here. Can you put me in another group? Can you put me in a different group? I like baseball.
Yeah.
So 100%, man. We love it. But yeah, no, this was fun. Anything else going on? Anything else top of mind? Leaving well on Saturday?
Yeah.
What else? What do you got?
A lot top of mind. LeBron's averaging the least amount of minutes in his career right now. He's playing 31 minutes a game.
He's 176 years old.
And why I say that, guys, I don't know if you guys have watched the Lakers. I'm lucky. The house I have here that I've rented, somehow they have every single game. They have literally NBA League Pass.
Yes, it's called piracy. It's called internet piracy. You must be in Mexico.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome there. I'm telling you, man, barring injury, this Lakers team is going to be unstoppable. This is a really tough team to match up with. They have 8-9 guys that are solid starters.
Their 4 through 8 would be a playoff team.
Yep. They're a good team, man.
They're 4 through 8. I mean, you take like Schroeder and Trae. And I hate Caruso, but Caruso. I mean, basically that team. If you wanted to, you could take Bron and who would their 3 be? Who would you say? Bron, Davis, and who's like their 3rd?
I mean, the thing is, if you guys have watched LeBron for a long time, you'll understand that he needs players that complement him, right?
Yeah,
he's very specific. So, I would actually say that Montrezl Harrell is a super important guy for LeBron. He can take a lot of pressure off him. He brings a lot of the energy and just this killer mentality. I also
the best part of them getting Harrell is not how he plays with LeBron. It's how he's not playing against him in the playoffs. That was a smart move by the front office.
And then you have a guy like Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder reminds me of Kyrie, to be honest, without the head case. Dennis could get a shot for himself anytime. He has some playmaking abilities. He could get to the paint. He can finish with his left hand, right hand. He can pull up. So, Dennis Schroeder, to me, is a really interesting pickup because he's an under-the-radar guy. They don't really need a huge, great defender. He's able to get buckets for himself, and I think he complements LeBron and AD really well.
Only thing I didn't like about last night's game was I really wanted LeBron to get into it a little more with Steven Adams. They were doing a little dance. They were giving him the business. And, that's a fun one. And the announcers were really funny about it, too. The guys doing the game. I was watching on was that on League Pass? Or was on regular? It might have been on regular television.
It was on ESPN.
ESPN. So I flip around for the games. I try to make sure I see everything that's going on, man. So, but the announcers are
roster.
Listen, the announcers are they say, LeBron's really, really upset about Steven Adams. He doesn't like what he's doing. He doesn't like it. And the announcer's he would love it if it was on his team, though.
What does Steven Adams do? Just set really hard screens?
Yeah, no, he basically is just trying to get in LeBron's face. He's playing a physical game, and at one point, they scored, and he was getting tangled up, LeBron was going to go for a rebound, and Adams had a hold of his elbow, held of LeBron's elbow, and wasn't letting go of it. And they were kind of jawing at each other and pushing it. They got a double technical after that. So you do things like that to try to get people off their game. And, Adams is a physical guy, and, he has obviously added a dimension to the Pelicans that they didn't have. And, he's just one of those players that, he packs his lunch, comes and shows up to work every day. And I think that was the point they were trying to make, So
I like players like that. I think you need that, especially when you're outmatched. Like that Pelicans team is so outmatched, but they gave up. You could see they gave up at the end of the game. They ran.
You're going through the Lakers depth roster, the depth chart.
Well, look at their Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Kuzma, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Marc Gasol, and KCP and Markieff. These are all guys that get pulled for three. And LeBron needs that. Him and AD need the space in the middle of the middle of the court.
The Danny Green to not miss the shot. Now one of these guys will take it.
Dude, I love when the announcers, I don't know if you guys hear this, like, great pickup by the Sixers, Danny Green, one of the most prolific three-point shooters in the entire league. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
I like Danny Green. When he wins the title, he says, not my job. These guys, I already won a title. They got to take me. That's good stuff, man. That's a little confidence. Danny Green.
We'll be back tomorrow. You want to do any quick NFL predictions? Not even worth it. Should we do a post from it?
I'm all chalk, man. I'm all chalk. I think Rodgers. I still think, we could talk about the games for today, right? But I still think this is the Rodgers-Mahomes Super Bowl. And I think Mahomes wins the Super Bowl and Rodgers takes the MVP. I think, somehow they found the guy, who has won the Super Bowl and the MVP in his first couple of years in the league to go into the Super Bowl a second time with a chip on his shoulder. Somehow.
You think the Browns can give the Chiefs a bit of a run for the money, though? Because they played well.
So I don't think the Chiefs lose that game, but I don't think the Browns embarrass themselves. Those teams they're just on a different level, I think. And, it's funny, right? Because the Browns, who tweeted it? Odell Beckham tweeted something like, hey, watch out for those Browns. Those Browns, they're going to show up. And Patrick Mahomes liked it. It's funny to see what these guys are doing on social media too, right? It's not just us idiots making fun of Darren Rovell. But I think the Browns are happy enough going home now. They strike me as a team that is just happy that they beat the Steelers and that's something they can build on for next year. They have a playoff win. It's the first time they've been in the playoffs forever. They got to win. They don't strike me as the team that's going to make a run in the playoffs. I think that they're all right now sitting there going, all right, we're happy even if we leave now.
It's like when you get that hot date with that influencer you've been going after for a long time. You get so excited you're going to make this is a perfect first date. And then it kind of fades, the motivation after that. Is that what you're comparing it to, or is that just how it sounded?
I don't know. The last 3 times I dated hot social media influencers, I had to get rid of them. I mean, they hung around. It was like Klingons, man. I mean, it was bad news. So I don't know what you're talking about. Once you get a taste of this, forget about it. They don't go anywhere. No, I get what you're saying. But,
I'm just having a laugh.
So when was the last influencer you dated?
Myself.
Gross.
The one game.
Disgusting.
The one game.
I see that box of tissues behind you.
That's not what I meant. My question was Bills, Ravens. So I've been super low on the Ravens all year, but they keep finding ways to win the game. But I think they get blown out by the Bills here. How do you see it?
So this is the one where if I were a gambling man, I'd be betting on the Ravens. I'd be betting on the Ravens, and here's why: because no one is. Everybody's seeing the Bills. The Bills have all that momentum going. The Bills have been beating up on everybody. It's Bills season. It's Bills mafia. It's you name it. The Bills also. It's just all it takes. Josh Allen has one subpar game. That's the whole thing. Name his weapons for me, right? I mean, I know Stephon Diggs, right? But who's the running back? Like, who's that running game they can rely on if the Baltimore defense shows up and shuts down the one wide receiving weapon?
Is the Baltimore defense as good as advertised?
No, they're not. They're not as good as they have been in years past. They're not as good as the team that took them to the Super Bowl. They're not, but they're a decent enough defense. And if they do enough scheming, enough stunts, they can take one receiver out. Any NFL defense can take one receiver out of the game by doubling them up, tripling them up, adding help, just putting a safety on them, shadowing them, you name it. So, remember, Buffalo's never been in this position. The Ravens have had early exits from the playoffs. It's a young. They both have young quarterbacks. If it was like the Ravens had a more senior quarterback who'd been doing this a little longer, I would definitely say the Ravens are prime for an upset. That is the one where I could see it. Doesn't you only talk about how it's Brady against the Saints? this weekend too?
Real quick. Let me just.
Yep.
My only take on this is this is how I go about it. I love going back and looking at the schedule and seeing the matchups. The Ravens had played one good quarterback all year, one, and that's the Chiefs. They have not faced a quarterback that could put up 30 points. And now Buffalo comes in. Are they at home? Yeah, Buffalo's at home, right?
It's Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo won the division.
Buffalo's at home. They come in with maybe the third best quarterback in the league. They're going to put up 30 points on this Ravens defense. Do you think the offense could keep up? I personally don't. So yes. I say the Bills in a blowout. I don't know about the Saints and the Buccaneers. That's going to be an interesting matchup. The Bucs got blown out by the Saints twice this season.
Twice. And Brady's had two of the worst games of his career against that Saints defense. Does he find a way to figure it out all of a sudden? But the flip side to that is most bettors will tell you, hard to beat the same team 3 times in 1 year. Hard to beat the same team 3 times in 1 year. And we've seen it. We've seen it many times. Titans, they've done
That's
it.
True.
And it's very difficult to bet against Mr. Tom Brady. That's a fun one, though. That game, I don't even know what the over-under is, but I'll tell you right now, bet the over. It could be 63 out of, whatever it is, bet the over because that game's going to have some fireworks. So that should be fun. But, yeah, I mean, listen,
Dude.
Yeah. What's the matter?
The over-under for the Browns-Chiefs is 57. When have you seen an over-under of 57 in a playoff game like that?
Well, when the Chiefs score 52 themselves, you'll understand why it's that way. So, I mean, look, we're talking about the Browns, Chiefs, and the Buccaneers.
Saints 51.5.
Yeah. Those are both Sunday games, right? So by the time people are listening to this, the Rams-Packers will have already been played. Unless we release this early because that's going to start soon. Yeah, man. We didn't even talk about that one, but I just think that's all Rodgers all day. I mean, the Rams are good and all, but, I just think I don't see Rodgers exiting now. I see Rodgers in a nice matchup against either Breeze or Brady, and that's what people want to see, right? This is a quarterback-dominated league, right? And in the final week, you're going to have potentially Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. You're going to have Patrick Mahomes. You're going to have Breeze, Brady, Rodgers. I mean, you're going to have legitimate. It's, of course, going to come down to this is why these guys get the money they get. That's why, when a team has a quarterback like that, they stick with them because, look, all the other fantasy late round quarterback sleepers are home sleeping while these guys, the studs, are out there playing meaningful playoff games. All right, guys. We hope you enjoy this one. Don't buy your N'Keal Alexander. No, don't buy him right now. Give it a minute and get those jaws while you can because, my co-host here seems to think when he comes back, he's going to dominate. I have no reason to doubt it.
I think they're going to be a 4 or 5 seed for a lot of the season, too.
Wow. All right. Like it. Everybody, thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.